this whole trip has been about as pointless as that blue lemon-shaped rock. Hey, wait a minute. There's a snowmobile.
There's a podcast behind that
rock.
There's
a podcast behind that rock.
The Every FNFF podcast, of which I am one of the hosts, Curtis.
I am one of the other hosts, Carl.
I am Alex.
The best of the three.
Pod Lobster.
Pod
the
Lobster.
Pod Lobster.
Under the rock.
The one who makes it all happen.
Oh, yeah. And there I saw a blue rock, but it wasn't a rock. It was a Pod Lobster. That's awful.
It's funny because I'm also from Maine.
Oh, there we go. It's all coming together.
Yeah.
But I think we just got some mithril, right?
We did, yes.
Well,
all three of us, collectively.
That's an interesting thing to say. Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it, Alex, because as we begin this next section of FF2, I could not figure out what to do or where to go, and I was talking to all kinds of characters, trying to use all kinds of items, and then I realized I had teleported out of the dungeon without actually picking up the mithril. So for about an hour and a half, I was like, what is happening? And then I realized I have to go all the way back down the dungeon and go get it.
That's interesting, too. How did you teleport out of this dungeon? Because if I recall correctly, I feel like the developers may have anticipated that people might do that. So in an attempt to stop that, they actually made it so that teleport does not work, if I remember correctly.
Is that true? Because I had to go back down and get it. Maybe I walked out of the dungeon.
I think so, but there is a warp tile that you can walk on that will bring you back out.
Wait, is there a warp tile in this dungeon?
I might be confusing it with
or in
another.
the Bafsk sewer.
It might be Bafsk.
Yeah, it's in Bafsk, so you can't teleport out.
Okay, well, forget what I said. Some dungeons here you cannot teleport out.
Fascinating if true.
Interesting if true.
There's also like a million versions of this game, so
yeah,
who knows? Some of them you probably can, some of them you
can't. We have
can't.
approximate knowledge of many Final Fantasies.
Yeah, we get like maybe 70% of our facts correct, so they are widely believed facts, which is pretty common in this day and age, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
In this podcast, we believe strongly in the truth and free speech.
I'm looking, not to date the pod or anything, but I'm looking at a message that I sent to Curtis and Alex a couple weeks ago where I said, I have bones to pick with this game. And I'm pretty sure it was in reference to this exact episode that I sent that many weeks ago.
I'm ready to get boned.
So I didn't have the same experience of not picking up the mithril and then not being able to make progress. But in other words, I had the mithril and I was still not able to make progress because this game is very weird with how you have to progress.
What do you mean?
So, like Curtis was saying, he was trying a bunch of different items. He was trying to learn different stuff, ask different things. This section of the game is something we could pretty much sum up today's episode in like 5 sentences, probably. Like, go here, do this, learn this word, say this word, go to this person, learn this, speak this, then a plan formulates. In practice... And again, I'm going to look at this through the lens of the time. It was probably very cool, but with the hindsight making us all see in 2020, this effectively just kind of makes it a really weird fetch quest. Like, I guess this might be like a precursor to like fetch quests as a video game mechanic in general. But instead of having like an item that you get or something, it's all like these weird keywords. And it gets a little confusing and weird, and it's very easy to be like, oh, I got everything I need, so I'm going to continue on. And then you continue on, and you're like, well, I know what the game is trying to tell me, but I didn't talk to enough people yet, so I can't do it.
Yeah, so that is true. There's a lot of investigating. Now, I will say, there is enough detail around to investigate your way through this section, like because like we've only been to like 4, 5 towns or whatever with like a limited number of people, and if you try every keyword on everyone and ask everyone everything, it'll tell you where to go eventually. But it is kind of like, okay, I've learned this keyword. Now, where is the one NPC who will react to this keyword to tell me what to do next? Yeah,
so my problem with it became that eventually what we're going to be talking about in today's episode is that we're going to be formulating a plan with regards to the Dreadnought, which I think is something that we may have already been able to learn about by talking to Hilda or someone else, or we may have already learned it. We need to figure out basically how to destroy the dreadnought. And it is a lot of back and forth with a lot of different NPCs to kind of formulate that. Like, it gives you enough, like, you talk to enough people, they're like, go talk to Sid. He's an expert on airships. And then he's like, you should blow this thing up. And you're like, okay, that's the plan. Cool. And then, like, we get some more information and stuff, but it's like, you learn everything through context, but if you don't actually get the words that you need to talk to with people, like, the flag in the game doesn't go up. So, like, you go to the place to get the thing that you want to use, that you've, like, gathered through talking to people, and then there's just nothing you can do. And then you're like, that is the exact moment when I was like, well, what the fuck do I do to get this thing? And then it was like, you need to learn these 2 statements and then you will be able to make progress. And I was like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
If you're confused now with how we're explaining it vaguely, that's the true Final Fantasy II experience in my experience with playing this game. We're getting real meta.
After we leave Summit Falls, the way to find out what to do next, I believe is if we talk to Joseph, who we talked to earlier, about where the mithril was. He'll tell us if we use the mithril on him, hey, you should go give that to Hilda.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, oh, okay, that's where we need to go.
And this is a really interesting thing as well, because this is essentially arbitrary, because when we go back and speak to Hilda, she'll be like, oh, yeah, that's great. You can give this to Tobal, who wants you to, like, he's a master blacksmith. He can...
Tobal, thus far, my favorite character in the game.
No disrespect to Tobal. Tobal fucking rules.
He's just a nobody. Or is he?
Unless. What if we kissed in front of the mithril deposits? Just kidding. Unless.
Yeah, why do they have to put Tobal in Altair? They could have put him in, like, any town. And, like, they just backtrack all the way to Altair.
Oh, dude, he's Altair all the way.
I'm glad that he's there. And it, like, this game, when you know where you're going and you know the progress of it, it is very, like, straight, and it's very, like, easy to do, and it's very, like, kind with how it sets up, where it's like, oh, I need to go back to Poft now. Luckily, I can just take this ship. Unless you did what I did in my first playthrough on the Pixel remaster, which is take the ship to Poft and then explore around and try and find the next town that I need to go to find out more information, and then backtrack all the way, and then take the airship back to Altair, get this information, be like, you need to go back to Poft. And then I'm like, okay, let me go to Paloom. Let me take the boat. Oh, the boat's not here because I fucking left it in Poft.
Yeah,
but if you're, like, just following along, like, the true way to play this game is to, of course, go to rpgsite.net/feature/1151/Final Fantasy II walkthrough, and it'll lay everything out for you. And like I said, it's designed very well to where it's like boom, 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 boom. You just do all the things. But if you're trying to play through, like I was, like, playground rules, like, not looking anything up, it is a lot of wandering around. It is a lot of trial and error. It's not even a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of mostly error until you...
Well, if you're a
dumbass like me, I should say.
No.
All of our listeners are God gamers, so they didn't have the same struggles.
I was just going to say, if you ask everything to everyone as you go, I don't think it's that bad. The only things I could really see getting choked up on, and I already knew ahead of time, so who's to say if I would have known or not, is that, like, sometimes you'll learn a word from a person, and then you want to ask that very same person the word you just learned to get the next word.
Yeah.
So I could see, like, playing it and being like, oh, I learned airship from Sid. Now I can just move on without asking him about airships and then getting, like, Sunfire or whatever. But we'll get there.
It's called having a conversation. You can't just
listen. I'm shy. Okay, This email did not find me well. I'm not going to be able to figure all this shit out. My big gripes, I'll just say it because it's, like, kind of a spoiler, I guess, but it's really not. The big gripes that I had were with Sunfire and Goddess Bell. Goddess Bell was the big one for me.
Yeah.
Because I thought, surely I've learned, like, 3 or 4 new terms in the last 5 minutes.
Yo, we're gonna learn so many words.
I've learned all these words. Surely, the plan is formulated around me. We're gonna blow this fucking shit up. I'll just go and get started on that. And then it was like all this backtracking and stuff. But it's, again, of its time. They wanted to focus more on the story. This was a good way to do that with the limitations at the time. And it really is immersive in the sense of like, okay, well, we got to like come up with this plan. It's not just NPCs. Like it is them just telling you what to do or where to go, but it feels more like a natural conversations going on, and that you actually are a rebel force trying to figure out how you're going to face these impossible odds.
It is funny how like modern games have basically like simplified this now. Just like having a key item and showing a character key item is kind of what, but it's very ambitious for them to try to like split key items and like conversation, like keywords, the two things, instead of another game would be like, show them your badge that know that you are like the secret badge that shows that you're a rebel. And that would be the way to do it.
Show them the boulder badge to get through Victory Road.
Yeah,
exactly.
And again, all of my complaints are coming strictly from like the fact that this was a very foundational game to the RPG genre and to video games in general, because like I can also look back on Ocarina of Time and critique it harshly by saying kind of sucks that you need to pull out the ocarina and play a song in order to do something that is functionally just like hit an A, like could just be hit an A button here. Like there's quality of life things that can be improved in the same way that like in randomizers or whatever, you don't have to go into your menu and put on like the iron boots or whatever. It's just like a hotkey on your D-pad, which is unused in the original. So it's like at the time that was really cool, that was really immersive, but like games have evolved so much that it's like,
could you play Black Parade on the ocarina?
That's a good question. I don't remember all of the you can maybe just play the only note that matters for that song, which is the first note.
But yeah, if we talk to Hilda, like you said, she tells us to give the mithril to Tobal.
We can go. We go to Tobal, and
if you ask her about airships before you go do that, like, because while I was standing there, I was like, well, let me ask her all the things. Mm-hmm. She gives us a little history on the like the story of airships in the world or whatever. That like Sid invented them. He built the first.
Yeah, he was the first one to do it. We actually get a lot of flavor text on Sid as a character here as well. Just through talking to a lot of people, like. Some people are just like, Sid invented the first airship. Another person is like, Sid gave up everything that he had to pursue this thing with airships. And like, he was a knight. He gave up his like family, all of this stuff. And you're like, damn, dude, like, I forget the specific like wording and stuff, but he's like, he went all in on the airship thing, which is really cool.
We were talking last time about like, he has like the accountant where he's like, yeah, just pay that guy to you know, get a flight or whatever. It says in here that he uses all of that money to refine airships. Like that's his thing. Yeah, he's not. So even all of his profit is he's just like, oh, more airship.
Really cool thing too is that you can see on like any version that I've played, you can see the airship kind of flying around. So playing the Pixel remaster first and seeing that, I was like, whoa, shit, that's cool and kind of scary. Like, is that a friend? Is that an enemy? But playing through the NES one, like the Famicom one, also seeing the airship kind of just scooting around the world, that's really cool. That's a nice little like bit of immersion that they put in. Like Sid's constantly, you know, like getting money to fund his airship. Like it's really, really cool.
Yeah. Speaking of which, did you ask Sid about the Dreadnought?
Yeah, and he says something like, we should blow that piece of shit up or something like.
Yeah, he hates it. He calls it a garbage scow. And I've never
heard oversized garbage scow.
I've never heard the word scow before. I was like, the fuck is a scow? And I didn't look it up because I thought it would be funny to look it up on the podcast.
No.
Scow. A wide-beamed sailing dinghy.
Ooh,
he called it a dinghy? Get fucked.
He's like, yeah, they call it an airship, but I'm going to call it a fucking airboat.
Ooh,
if you're not familiar
it took him a year.
With nautical folk, that is the biggest insult you can do.
It took him years to build it, but it took him seconds to tear it down.
Yo, Jeff Bezos, nice boat, you fucking loser.
Bow, 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 bow.
You know, I just found out while we were talking that I did not know that you can actually play all the entire chromatic scale in Ocarina of Time using the...
Oh yeah, like the up, down, left, and right.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I thought you could just only do like the 4 notes that they give you.
The only time
in that case, Carl, I'm going to have to disagree with you and say that actually it's a good system.
Oh, yeah. No. I'm also, again...
Based on I have an octave to play with.
I'm doing the devil's advocate thing here. That's going to be my whole thing for this season, I feel like, where I really love Ocarina of Time. When I go back and I play it, I don't mind that at all. But I've heard criticisms over the years, especially from people who didn't grow up with that game, where they're like, yeah, in the Water Temple, the reason that people probably hate it as much as they do isn't so much that it's like like as confusing as it is that you need to play the ocarina each time you have to change the water level, which is a lot of trial and error, which is dependent on a time-consuming thing. That's the main point that I'm saying. I actually like don't dislike
skill issue.
Skill issue. I don't dislike Final Fantasy 2 or the way it handles things. I think it's actually very cool. And to kind of be how many years later, like almost 30 years later or whatever, and be like, oh, they could have done this better. It's like, obviously, yeah, they could have, but like, because we can say that because we've gotten better since then.
35?
Jesus, older than me. Goddamn. I'm 24 years young.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just do this thing?
Yeah, exactly. So like, just
who knows how many bits they had?
Yeah, I just feel like for the due diligence of the podcast, I wanted to share that. I actually am very positive on this game.
Yeah.
Haters.
Playing it twice.
Yeah, so we give the Mithril 2.
No one's more positive about this game than me, goddammit.
We give the Mithril to Tobal, and he says, that's Mithril, and then he forges Mithril weapons out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're able to, in the Famicom version, there's just suddenly another shopkeeper behind the desk, which will sell us Mithril weapons, which I immediately bought, and they are definitely worth equipping and stuff like that. But I don't think you actually need to really buy weapons in this game after playing through it totally. On my Famicom playthrough, I'm just going to wait until I find weapons in caves, because I don't really need them.
I immediately found a full set of mithril weapons in the next dungeon.
And it's kind of fun. And again, this is just kind of good story and world building where they're like, okay, well, the Rebel Alliance now kind of has a shot against the Empire because the Empire has nothing but mithril weapons, and now the rebels can make mithril weapons, and they're starting to, so they can finally take the fight to the Empire. But functionally, it doesn't really matter. Mithril's not like an OP weapon that we now have. It's like the next on the progression, which we're just going to find in a chest in a cave anyway.
I did buy a mithril sword, and it cost me pretty much everything that I've made the entire game. Yep. And I was like, let's go. Here we go. Furion has a mithril sword. And what I really should have bought, honestly, was some armor, because the armor shop also updates with mithril weapons. Second NPC appears. But for whatever reason, I guess Maria's just never been attacked, maybe, or something up to this point.
She's back
and
row.
Still has her initial HP, and I'm just like, huh.
Yeah.
I wonder if she should have more than that.
But the interesting thing too, so I also have Maria in the back row, and I've only punched her with herself a couple of times, or like shot herself with the arrows a couple of times. So she has like 44 HP while everyone else is close to like 300.
Yeah.
But I think armor would be really helpful there. But I think the big concern is that magic attacks aren't affected by what row you're in, which is really good when you're fighting like 8 rows deep of enemies, or 8 enemies that are like 4 rows deep or whatever. But when you're on the receiving end of that, like I just had Maria get KO'd, and I was like, oh, this is actually really kind of cool, because when you open up your menu, there's just a giant, very elegant like cross, like memorial, like gravestone cross over the character portrait, yeah, and I thought that was really nice. But
it is very nice.
One thing that I would recommend if you're playing along is to have at least 2 members of your party with the life spell.
Sure.
Because when Maria got knocked out, I was like, well, that sucks. She's my magic user, and she has cure, and she has a lot of MP. And I would have to backtrack all the way there, but I also got Furion with life, so I was able to just
Furion is my white mage. Yeah.
Nice.
We got Minwu still for now.
Oh, true. We'll have him for a good long time.
I wanted to ask a question. You sent you put a picture in the Discord, Carl.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
Is there a world map?
So, if you'll recall on a previous episode where we were talking about how weird the shape of this world is, and how I was saying that I would love to see it in globe form, and
globular, right?
In pog form.
Yeah. I found out today that you actually can by holding the B button and then hitting select on the NES or the Famicom version, and then
is it the same as FF1? There was a button combination. I just couldn't remember what it was.
Maybe. I also can't remember. I also forgot that was a thing in FF1. So literally that already exists, and it's cool because you can actually like rotate the entire globe. The only thing is because it's NES, it goes like you hit over and it like has to shift all of the pixels like very slowly, so it's not like a nice like rotating. Like it could be if you like filmed it and like sped it up or something, but you know,
it's
hardware
just
limitations.
Strongbad's face.
But yeah, no, so that literally is already in the game. This is like the data logs thing all over again. Like we keep posing
FF2,
questions that the
perfect game.
Is there a 15 puzzle though?
That's what I meant to look that up as well.
15-2.
Your game is bringing up a lot of questions answered by the game.
Yeah. You guys did not read the manual because the manual is only in Japanese.
You're like the kid that keep asking questions during a movie. Like, who's that? Like, they're about to say who it is.
Yeah, right.
You're like a kid who wanders into a movie halfway through and demands to know what's going on. Shut the fuck up, Donnie. But yeah, so now we can do this fetch quest of unlocking the next form of progress, right? Now we can kind of talk to people, and I think they kind of point us in the direction of Sid, right?
Sid, or they say like now is the time to strike back against the dreadnought. And so we've heard that like
we keep hearing about this Bafsk and how there's something terrible being built there. Maybe we should go.
I was gonna say,
investigate.
Bafsk, something terrible there.
Yeah.
Haven't heard.
Yeah, I haven't heard about it. It is the cheapest place to go with the airship too, which is
really
quite nice.
Yeah.
So,
it's not far. It's just it's basically just over the mountain.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. If you went southeast from what's the town that Joseph's from?
Salamand?
Salamand. If you went southeast from Salamand, you run into Bafsk.
Yeah. Southeast from Salamand. Cool sentence.
I'm not sure if you can get there on foot, right?
You can get there on foot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you can get anywhere
you go
on foot at this point, even to places that you like really shouldn't go. I think
That's
there's
true.
most places you can get to on foot, except for a couple of islands, which is something I found out by running into enemies that are way outclassing me, and I was like, oh my god! And it's like, that might be worth it if you can kill it and get the gil from it, because, you know, if you want to really load up on mithril equipment, you know, it's a little up there. But in terms of like the long run, probably not worth it. But while I was doing this,
there's no experience in this game, so like fighting enemies that are way too strong for you, it's like, well, you get money, I guess.
And I think another thing, like I do think Pixel Remaster might be the way to play this game in 2023 and beyond.
Oh yeah.
But the flip side of that is the airship can take you to pretty much anywhere, which is really nice. But the problem with that is I was like, well, I haven't been to this like Kashan place yet. Let me go there. Or and then I was like looking on the map to try and find next places to go. So I think that kind of makes it even easier to get lost in this progression system.
Sure.
Fix your game, Square.
Go on, Square.
So we go to Bafsk.
Bafsk's? I can't even say it.
It's a nice place.
Bafsk actually has like lots of NPCs to talk to and different like there's like a lot going on. It feels like a very busy town.
Yeah.
For an NES game.
Immediately someone tells you that there is a rebel hiding in town.
Yeah.
Which just seems like a bad thing to just tell strangers.
Because there's like soldiers and shit walking around too, right?
Yeah.
I was worried that I would get in fights with them, but they seem pretty chill.
Yeah. So one of them, I'm pretty sure, says the equivalent of nobody wants to work anymore, because they're...
he does. I got it. I have it like on here. I was like, oh my god, that's the thing. He said the thing. Where is it?
Dude, I heard a Wawa cashier say that to a customer the other day.
Really?
Like, come on, dude.
Oh yeah, so the guy in the northwest corner says, I don't feel like working at all with that buffoon Borgin in charge.
Yeah.
The thought of doing anything for his precious glory, quote unquote, makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, we can actually talk to Borgin as well, and he'll be like, we must finish the dreadnought so I can have glory.
Back to work.
Yeah, back to work.
Yeah, Borgin's in the middle of town, like barking orders at different people running around, and he's kind of screaming at them to do work.
He's got like a little weird like pirate hat or conquistador hat. I'm not sure.
There is one person who says no one wants to work under General Borgin, and I took a screenshot of it. I was like, oh my god, he said the thing.
No one wants to work under Dark Brandon.
And then there's some people who are like, General Borgin's not dealing with these peasants as he should be.
Yeah, and there was a lot of discussion as well about a Dark Knight, and the Dark Knight had left. And if we came here earlier, which we could have, because we could have flown here while investigating. We would just kind of hear everyone being like, we're being worked like fucking dogs. Like, I'm exhausted. This sucks. The Dark Knight is really pushing us hard. Seems like, from what we can gather from talking to people, that the Dark Knight actually went back to the Empire, like Palamacia, that's right. He went back to Palamacia after they learned that the rebels got the deposit of Mithril. So that kind of halted the dreadnought construction a little bit, and Borgin is now in charge, and no one really is as afraid of him as they are the Dark Knight. So everyone's doing the cool, quiet quitting.
And I guess we've learned Borgin used to be part of Finn, but he betrayed
right, yeah,
Finn,
he's a big
insulted
fucking
the Empire.
traitor.
What a dork.
Yeah.
What a dork. That's the state of town. The shops I don't really think they have equipment. Well, they have bronze equipment, I think. It's not as good as mithril equipment, but like it is certainly cheaper. So if you feel like you need something.
And to kind of reiterate like how armor can be really helpful, it's sort of a double-edged sword, I think, because the way that you gain more max HP is by taking damage, and that damage, depending on how much stamina you have, like if you have like 50 stamina, when you actually take damage and level up your maximum HP, you'll level it up by the number of stamina that you have. So if you put on a lot of heavy armor, you might not be likely to take as much damage, which might prevent you from leveling up your HP.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on what your current goal is, to get more stats or to like beat a boss or something like
exactly,
that.
Exactly, yeah. So it's
but I think there's no boss in this section of the game, so
right, exactly.
Yeah. But
well, the boss is right there. It's Borgin. He's the substitute. He's subbing in.
Oh, Borgin. Oh, does he have like a pirate hat on? It like kind of like looks like he.
Yeah, he looks like a little pirate.
Alex is saying like a conquistador hat.
No, he looks kind of BK, but more.
He's BK-ish.
High class.
Yeah.
Maybe a little rich boy.
Yeah,
fancy lad.
Yeah, I like that. Like even in like this old NES version, like where there's not a lot of dialogue for each character, they do a good enough job of making them like a fucking bratty asshole,
a total shitheel.
Yeah. It was just like, no, we have to build the dreadnought so that I'll be famous. That's the reason.
It's very Krennic from Star Wars Rogue One. It's just like, we gotta finish the Death Star.
I thought you were gonna say it's very Bender from Futurama, where he becomes the Pharaoh. Remember me.
There's also somebody who tells us that we can't get on the Dreadnought without a pass, and I was like, oh, I like that the Dreadnought is also just doing like like private travel, or it's doing like they also just pick up passengers and drop them off. They're also doing transit as well.
Yeah, I mean,
they take tokens.
So they're doing the fucking Amazon thing. They're like, you can ride this as many times as you want with this pass. We do have some competition with Sid, and we're gonna try and run him out of business by offering this pass to go anywhere. And then once he's out of business, that's when we fucking hike the prices up, dude.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Or they could just like blow up his airship, probably.
Well, I was just thinking, I was like, well, if it's a warship, you would think it would be mostly for like soldiers or whatever. But I like the idea that like, no, you can also just buy a pass. It's fine.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
People can pre-order, I guess, a pass because it's still being built.
Yeah, it's still being built.
Yeah, and notably,
so we think
we can actually see it being constructed. It's surrounded by mountains, and there's like a little like cave entrance right there. So it's like presumably we can get to this, but we don't know how to get there until we go to I guess the southwest of town. Where there's a guy standing there and he's like, man, working sucks.
Yeah, as soon as he says working sucks, I was like, that's our guy right there. I'm all in with this man.
100% a comrade.
Yeah, absolutely. And it turns out that he is a comrade.
Oh no! I actually really like what he says in the fan translation that I have. We can goof off with the lazy Borgin in charge. Oops, you didn't hear that. And then if you ask him about the Dreadnought, he says, "So you want to destroy the Dreadnought? I'm on your side." And I was like, "All right, like cool, like maybe."
That's not really what I.
Maybe he would have had different dialogue if I came here earlier, where he would have just said, like, without realizing that we're on his side or whatever. But you can also say Wild Rose to him, and he'll say, "Oh, there's an entrance. There's an entrance to the sewers up ahead. It leads to the Dreadnought. Good luck."
That reminds me, you can ask Borgin things in the middle of the town. You can ask him, and he doesn't have any answers for any different words. But I was like, it is kind of fucked up that I can just go up to Borgin and be like, "Yo, Wild Rose."
Dude, I did that, and I was expecting that we'd have to fight him or something, but
yeah,
that's wild.
Rose.
But yeah, this NPC, depending on what version you're playing, either like tells you like, "Hey, good luck." Like that's, you know, I had to like you're one of us, and I had to keep my cover here while the Dark Knight was in charge, and then he kind of just walks away or just disappears if you're on the NES version. And we can get past him now and go to the sewers. I think what we should do is maybe roll up our pant legs, or perhaps tuck our pants into our socks, because we got to go into the sewer here.
Everything's coming up, Millhouse.
We need to make sure if we either want our cuffs bone dry or we want to prevent the rats from crawling up our pants. And I think we should probably discuss that in depth for like an hour or two while we're on break.
Yeah, I think so.
If you guys want to figure out what we're going to do.
I get my mithril pants.
Speaking of which, I have gone to the inn a couple times now in this game, just after like walking from town to town where I really didn't take any damage, but I maybe used like a spell, like cure or something like that. So I have gotten the fabled 2 gil in price.
Nice.
where they do jack it up if you're injured, but if you just need some MP, 2 gil, no problem, baby. Love that.
All right, let's go into the stink.
Well, dear listener, we were completely split down the middle. I am tucking both of my pant legs into my socks. Curtis, of course, is going to be bone dry cuff, and Alex is doing one of each. So we'll see how it goes.
I'm going to walk on my hands. Or I'm going to put my hands in the shoes so my hands don't get as wet.
Do you guys know anyone who can walk on their hands?
Don't know.
You?
No. I cannot.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're like, actually,
well,
you do.
No, actually, no. My older brother Tommy can though, and used to be that he would just break that out all the time. Because I mean, I guess if you can do it, then why the fuck wouldn't you? But
it reminds me of being able to do a backflip. Like it's like.
I also have a friend who can do a backflip, and I wouldn't say he would necessarily break that out all the time so much as we would be like, "Yo, Jure, you should do a backflip right now." To which he would.
Gonna say, if I could do a backflip, I feel like, I mean, not that I've never had trouble making friends, but if I did, I feel like being able to do a backflip would be like one of those things where like if I was like in a social situation, it was like, I wish people were talking to me right now. I could just do a backflip and people would go, "Ooh, that guy can do a backflip. Let's talk to him."
It's kind of unfair because my friend Jure is just cool as fuck in general, just a super cool guy, and can also do a backflip. But
overpowered.
Yeah, shout outs to Jure from Low Cut Connie. So
if you can do a backflip, leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes or wherever and tell us that you can do a backflip.
Tweet us a video of you doing a backflip.
If you tweet at us a video of you doing a backflip, we will retweet that video. That's my personal guarantee to you.
And probably a lot of other people, because there's not enough backflip content on Twitter.
It's true. It's true.
If by the time this episode comes out, if that website still exists, then do it.
That's right.
I'm sure the No Dreadnoughts will be coming and destroying that anytime soon.
Yeah.
The people of Bafsk are like, I wish the Dark Knight was still here. Like I could do a backflip.
Jack is the Dark Knight, and fucking Elon Musk is the Borgin. But yeah, we are heading on into the sewers.
That's right.
Squeal, real stinky.
The dead do in fact come back to life and roam the earth after their tenure on this mortal plane has ended, because
wise man did once say, when there is no more room left in hell, the dead will, what does he say? Inherit the earth?
Will walk the earth. I think it was Aerith that said that, right, from FF7.
Yeah, it was Aerith.
Because the sewer is in fact full of zombies, and zombies do in fact take extra damage from fire. So even though like most of my characters are doing like 30, 40 damage per swing. Fire 2 with Maria does like 300 damage. I was like, oh my god.
Oh damn, yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, you mean okay. When you said Fire 2, I was like, damn, that's really good. But I realized that anytime I throw down Fire 2, it is on the entire party, so that it greatly reduces its attack. But Fire 2 at this point is pretty strong, so it'll wipe out a good bit of the enemies that you encounter, even if you like reduce its power by hitting the entire party. I also like that they updated each of the like levels with like a better graphic each time. I think it might be each time. Like if you use Fire 1,
that.
I noticed it more on the Pixel remaster, so I thought that was just an improvement there. But I'm pretty sure it gets a little bigger. Again, maybe I'll have a corrections corner next time. But I think each spell has like a little bit different of an effect as you level it up.
Oh wow, that's a really nice little thing. I gotta keep an eye out for that. That's really cool.
It's funny. There's a lot of like little things like that in this game. Just because playing like a game this old, you kind of don't really pay attention to that stuff that much. Especially like Pixel Remaster is really nice because you can just do the auto battle thing. Like it'll cache like the last thing you did, and then you just hit like X or whatever, and it'll just do that over and over until the battle's over. And that's made it really easy to just like level grind and stuff in this game, where you just set it and forget it, and like look at Twitter or like do something else as like your party's doing all the work. So I like missed a bunch of that, like the small details, like playing it on Steam Deck as well, to where it's just multitask city. I think that might be why I'm so positive on this game as well, that I'm just like, it's great. It's like Vampire Survivors. You just let it go.
I do really like actually playing like old Famicom and like these old RPGs or whatever. And I think one of the reasons that I've been really enjoying playing them is that they demand a certain kind of patience and attention. And I don't know. I don't think that there's anything like that today. And obviously, like, I think an entirely reasonable opinion would be like, why would you play them? They comparatively to today, they don't respect your time. And like, that's fair enough. Comparatively to today, they do not respect your time. But they're on a certain kind of hardware and made with a certain mindset at a certain time. And I think it's like a very interesting experience to put yourself in the position of being like, no, I'm not going to use fast forward. I'm going to fucking press A every single time and watch the animations play out and play this the right way, I think
the other thing too is it's like very easy to be critical of it now, but like back when it first came out, like what else was there to do? Like you're buying a game for probably a pretty expensive price, I would imagine, like given inflation and everything. Like everyone always kind of complains now that, games are almost like the new Zelda's coming out and it's gonna be $70. Like, what do they think I'm made of money? It's like, yeah, but I mean, like, if you look at old like Toys R Us ads and shit and like I fucking in the 90s, my mom had to pay $80 goddamn for Hey You Pikachu for a shitty little microphone and the worst game you've ever played. And like it was way more money back then, like $80 and stuff. And like just so many games were way more expensive, and they kind of just landed on the standard of like $60 that has lasted for so long. But but like you don't really have too. It's not like if you were playing this in the 80s when it came out, that you would be like, oh, okay, well, let me just fucking turn on YouTube and watch an episode of The Simpsons as I'm like playing through this. It's like attention spans were much different at the time.
Sure, yeah.
The world wasn't calling for attention as much, and but it also just feels like, because of the era, like the few games are still kind of relatively new, especially in the home.
Yeah,
that this was like amazing. I get to like interact with this graphic like story. It felt more like an actual adventure because you felt so immersed in it, and because you're spending real hours working on it. And I guess like instead of just dashing for like the next like fetch quest or whatever in like a Skyrim type game, where it's just like, just follow the waypoint, go there. Yeah, and it's interesting too, because I guess like what did they have to compare with at the time? And I guess like Dragon Quest obviously, and some other like PC games probably. But
I recently beat Dragon Quest 2 without a guide and without fast forwards and things, and let me tell you, that shit sucks.
But the other thing is, it's okay. Well, you might might be comparing it, if you're a fan of this genre, you probably like tabletop RPGs. So it's like a more interactive tabletop RPG that you can play by yourself. And that's saying a lot, you know, like I think the conversation mechanic as well is the same sort of thing where it's like you don't really have a DM who's like, oh, well, you know, like maybe you should go to this town and talk to this person for this. But like it's built into the game in a way that, as clunky as it is now, it's very elegant.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm also in the very like weird minority. I'm constantly reminding myself, like, you know, for what you get out of a game compared to like a movie ticket, video games should be like, not that I think they actually should be, but like for what you get out of them, I feel like they should be way more expensive for the experience you get.
They're a lot cheaper now than they used to be, at very least.
And they take so much fucking more money to create.
Yeah.
You're speaking of like the new Zelda. I'm like, that game came out, what, 2016?
2017, I think. When did the Switch come out?
I'm still playing it, and like years later, and I paid $50 for like, absolutely, I got the freaking so many mileage out of that.
Yeah. It's a weird thing, and it's a very complex conversation, because I also understand the flip side of it. Of people are like, well, I don't fucking have any money to live because everything's so fucking expensive, and I want to play this game. Like, I haven't picked up the Resident Evil 4 remake, which like just came out recently, and I know it's amazing, good. And I've seen people play it, and it looks great, and I know I'll love it. But I was just like, well, I don't really have the time to play it, and I don't really want to spend the money to have it sit there and me not play it for a while. So I've just been like holding back on it.
We're so spoiled with the selection of fucking things to keep coming out like every fucking week.
That's the other thing too. Yeah, like it's but I mean, like
as we're recording this podcast, I am downloading Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, which is on sale right now. And by right now, I mean like by the time that this podcast comes out 3 weeks ago, it will have been on sale. Get it now.
From 2003, that's a 20-year-old game.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's also like a greater conversation that can be had, because just the way that developers have to crunch, and how that seems like a very just, trickle down economics ass industry as well, of like the companies making a fuck ton of money off of this product and not paying their workers enough, and then laying off all their workers, and all kinds of shit that's been going on. And then it also has ripple effects that we're seeing in real time, where there's like Square Enix being like, you know what the future of gaming is? NFTs. Here's a cool thing that we're going to do with that. And it's like businesses keep trying to innovate to make better payment models for their games, and that lends to things like microtransactions or like paid DLC, which I don't really mind paid DLC if it's like, there's again very complex conversations to have. There's good and there's bad if they're but it's all just like at the core of it all, it's like, yes, everything fucking sucks and is expensive, and it's all like just trickle down economics that fucking sucks.
I like to think that these are the kind of conversations that our team has while going through the sewers, because frankly, there's not a lot else in these sewers.
Yeah. This is I think the last cave was a little more involved than this one. This is what, like 3 floors?
2.
It's just a sewer.
Oh yeah, 2 floors and 1 door, which makes sense because it's a sewer.
It's not a dungeon, it's a sewer.
Yeah, it's not really exactly. It is a hallway.
Yo, a 2-floor sewer? It's just like Xenogears.
Dude, this game's a fucking walking simulator.
This game is just like Xenogears. Wait, hold on. Does the Xenogears sewer have 2 or 3 floors? It's 2.
Couldn't tell you.
Wouldn't know.
Okay.
We'll have to cover it and find out.
Yeah, if you know how many floors the Xenogears sewer has, leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, and in the rating, in the review, tell us how many floors the sewer has.
But yeah, back when this game was made, I'm sure like it's a whole nother conversation we had of just like about just the size of the team versus like the amount of cost it costs to the amount of risk and reward for the investors and people who are paying for this game.
Do you think they were able to...
It's cool seeing games like, I don't know, what, Unchained Echoes, or is that one that just came out recently? That's like basically made by one person.
Yeah, and it goes back to what our former guest Aiden was talking about, where like we're kind of in a new... potentially in like a golden age of just indie games. Like, I mean, look at Hollow Knight, look at, all these other indie, like Stardew Valley, where
indie games are good enough to just be called games now, for real. Like they're like so good that you're just like, no, these are the heavy hitters. It's fine.
Yeah, and it's amazing because the passion for video games is still very much there, and everyone.
God, there's something I want to talk about too with indie video games, but I'm going to save it for another thing that we might do. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
But
that being said, I just like thinking about there's probably a demand for games like this, FF2, where like the amount of player agency, just like the freedom and also kind of obtuseness, like of maybe Morrowind was like the most modern version of that, where it's just like, we're not going to tell you where to go next. You're just going to fucking figure it out and know who to ask. And like,
do you think 1987, 1988 Square would have gotten more or less done under The Dark Knight versus Borgen?
Well, they moved to America, so we got to consider that as well.
More felt unionized.
Square? I doubt it.
Yeah. Damn, we were the Palamacia.
Yeah, we should
along.
unionize Bafsk.
I like having like a podcast about Final Fantasy and Square Enix games, but also being incredibly adversarial to Square as a company as well, and just being like, unionize Square Enix now.
Yeah. It's funny too.
They don't offer us free game codes. They don't let us play their games anymore.
It really reminds me of friends of the show, Calling All Creeps, which Dave from Daycare Dittos, that was his original podcast with our buddy Matt. And I think on the first episode, they were just like making fun of R.L. Stine and also making fun of R.L. Stine's son. And I feel like a lot of times podcasts or, people with a good sense for business and marketing themselves would do something like, oh, well, we're going to, we're talking about this product that we really love, and we're going to do it in a kind of professional way that lends to maybe having some sort of relationship with the creators of it. But like our fucking dumbasses are all just like, like just I'm thinking like I see a lot of streamers who get like Final Fantasy 14 sponsorships and stuff, and I'm
oh my god, we will never get a Square Enix
like, how am I going to do that? Because I can't be like, hey, I have a Final Fantasy podcast. They'll be like, let's check it out, and they'll be like, oh
yeah, I know. Like,
oh no,
yeah, they just start and we're just like, yeah, yo, what do you think Cloud's bowel movements are like? I bet that shit's stanky. Square Enix eating my asshole.
Who up eating they whole?
Sorry, there's not a lot in the sewers, y'all. I'm sorry.
This season is gonna be way more just fucking bullshit. Like we could wrap this season up in like literally 3 episodes of.
Well, yeah, we could finish the rest of the game tomorrow.
What's the fun in that?
Yeah.
So hopefully you're here for the rest.
Nomura, why didn't you put more enemies or something in the sewers? What were you thinking?
Nomura, why are there so many dead enemies in here? Actually, that it makes sense. Going back to like things that I just like took for granted because I was playing an older game and just kind of on like cruise control mode in the Pixel remaster. Like the story of this game, I am routinely forgetting. So it's like, oh, there's a lot of like dead enemies here. And it's like, oh, right. The whole inciting incident of this video game is that the Empire like opened a portal to hell and has like demons and shit that they are now like sending out to the world to try and conquer the world. So like, yeah, it makes sense.
It's like Doom.
We're running into all these fucking it's Doom. Like we're running into all these enemies because these are soldiers of the Empire.
Yeah, I was gonna say the music of the sewers is just speaking of which, there's a I don't know if I want to call it a mechanic, but there's a new thing to find here in the sewers, which is our first instance of invisible paths or hidden walls.
Oh shit, really?
What do they call them in Dark Souls?
Illusory walls. Shout out to
there's
illusory wall and his podcast Retro Game Audio.
That's right.
Which is not really active anymore.
Well, you can't win them all. But there are illusory walls here. So there's kind of a snaky path through the very first floor where you have to like go to the top, go to the bottom, go to the top, go to the bottom. Or you can just cut directly horizontally across the entire map because every wall has like an illusory wall in it. So it's actually a very short map.
Oh
if you
damn!
just use
I don't
those.
even think I realized that. I realized that in like later areas and later like dungeons, but not here. Interesting. And it's funny too because I'm kind of having like flashbacks to Final Fantasy 1 to where I was like, oh my god, dude, there's so many like hidden routes and hidden chests and shit through like fake walls and things like that. And
also, SMT3 just finished downloading. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, right on. But yeah, there's a couple chests here as well. You can get a long sword and a long bow, which at this point will be an upgrade versus like the broadsword and just the regular bow that you have. But probably not as good as the mithril if you opted to get that.
It's not.
Yeah,
I checked on it. It's not,
but again, you can dual wield. You can power stance in this game.
That is true. That is
so
true.
So you could equip, one in each hand. Well, not with the
Actually,
bow.
I should have done that. I don't know why I didn't do that.
I don't know how much benefit it has here, at least with like Furion, who's like the sword user for me. But I don't think it actually increased his attack too much.
Okay.
And again, kind of a give and take with that, where you're not. It's implied that you're two-handing or like one-handing with a weapon, depending on if you have a shield or a sword. So you might not be doing as much attacks, but you get additional attacks. Like you'll get additional.
Speaking
swipes.
of equipping things, have you played around with the equipment menu at all and seen that you can equip items?
Yes, I did. I didn't realize that until I got into a point where I was trying to level up my HP a little bit, where I went into the menu during the battle, like the item menu, and that's where you can actually like unarm yourself. And then I was just having Guy and Furion punch themselves as I was trying to also level up, like, focus on Maria
wise
to
guy,
eh? But yeah, there's the mechanics don't work like future instances of Final Fantasy, or maybe even Final Fantasy 1. I can't quite remember how the NES handled.
It's different. It's different.
Yeah, you need to equip before a battle. You need to equip your party members with up to 2 items.
Yeah, so very interesting.
If you want to use potions in a battle, you have to have already decided that before you get into the battle, or like equipping like a Phoenix Down or something. So if you have Phoenix Downs, which I don't think I have gotten any in the NES so far, you would want to equip that. But again, that kind of shows that magic is very OP in this game, especially considering how it worked in Final Fantasy 1 versus now. And that's why it's kind of good to have a couple people with life spell.
Yeah. But yeah, and I noticed that Minwu comes equipped with an item called the Conch Shell. How nice.
Oh shit, I did not notice that.
Indeed, he does.
Interesting. What does that do?
And an ether, I believe. You know what? I did not look it up.
I'm gonna fucking take that ether
right
off him. He doesn't need that. Oh wait, I can't. Shit.
1 second. Final Fantasy.
That's probably one of the consumable items that will do like a certain type of attack. Like there's cave coming up where we get an Arctic wind or an Antarctic wind, depending on version, and it'll do like Blizzard 4 or something to enemies.
It does do that.
Shell.
It casts shell level 16. Yeah.
Oh damn! Yeah, so that's a fully maxed out shell, which is very significant.
Yeah.
You must be very small if you can fit inside a conch shell.
I think what they're doing here with Minwu is also a pretty elegant way of handling just kind of showing like almost like a tutorial. Like this almost feels like a tutorial.
It's like
section.
a tutorial, isn't it?
Because when you get Minwu, spoilers, he's not going to be in our party the whole time.
What?
He comes equipped with like he's maxed out all of his slots with magic. They're not like max level, but he's got some like level 6 or 7 cure.
Yeah.
So he's able to pretty much cure your entire party up to full and stuff. So I think what the game is kind of trying to tell us is like, hey, here's some spells that you can get. Some of them might be useful to you, others might not be, but you can test them all out before you invest in buying them at shops, because you can be like, oh, well, I don't really see a use case for sap, even though sap is fucking busted in this game. But like, it's nice that you can do that before having to like, you can test out a build before you like go all in on it.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I agree. I think that's a really elegant solution to that, because like Minwu isn't gonna pull you through the beginning of the game, but he definitely is like, if anything goes wrong, instead of being like, oh, we have to reset, or oh, we have to go back to the beginning of the dungeon, he has a cheap life spell to get you up. His cure, if you aim it at everybody, it can just pretty much entirely cure the party back to full
top
health.
Everyone off, yeah,
in one shot. So like, He is kind of like the training wheels of the game. So you have a lot more like room and leniency to play around right now, and I think that's like a really cool solution for that.
Yeah,
He doesn't know Meteor though.
He doesn't know Meteor. We have to climb Mount
Ordeals.
I was like, Hobbs is the first one.
Ordeals.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think I spoke on this already, but in NES, I used my prior knowledge of the Pixel remaster to kind of know what was coming up and set myself up to have a little bit of an easier time than just like fully banging my head against this game. I did definitely use sap a bunch on Maria to where she got around like 150 MP to make it a little easier to get through the next parts of the game.
Okay.
Because you basically just use sap and drain her MP, and then she'll level up the max MP, go to an inn, restore
that's such a good idea.
Do that a couple of times, just because I did not want to be in a situation where I'm deep in a dungeon in the NES version and all out of magic and just kind of hoping to scrape by.
That's actually a great idea. I should do that myself.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we're still in this fucking dungeon.
Still in the sewer. 2 screens long, takes 30 seconds. When we get to the end of the second floor, because there's nothing else, there's no other treasures on the second floor. It's just pretty much a straight shot. We see the Dark Knight. Oh
yeah.
no!
This
boss
fucko.
fight. Let's go.
Yeah, boss fight. It's time.
I definitely put a save state here. I definitely did a save state. I was like, I don't know.
And he mostly just makes fun of us.
He's like, aha! You're too late. The Dreadnought is complete.
Yeah, Dreadnought is complete. Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working behind the scenes to see the project through to completion.
Yeah. So yeah. So I guess he didn't go anywhere. He's actually just been over here.
Yeah,
with
it was all
Does Bogan just think he's helping?
No, Borgen actually appears from right outside the frame, and he comes in and says, "Serves you right," and then follows the Black Knight or the Dark Knight out into the exit, where we then see the Dreadnought taking off and flying away.
Yeah,
oh no.
The Dreadnought is operating. Yeah, I think you'll find the Dreadnought fully operational when your friends arrive.
Does the Famicom version have a laughing sprite for Borgen?
I did not notice. I don't think so.
In the Pixel remaster, it's very funny. Just like a little open mouth. Just
I don't remember. Does it show a cutscene now of the Dreadnought flying around
It does, yes.
the world? Okay.
It's going around fucking shit up.
Oh, so on the
Fucking shit
NES,
right up.
on the NES version, it just shows it flying away, and then like we're just standing there.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
But in the Pixel remaster, we actually see it just fucking absolutely leveling a bunch of the towns that we've already been at.
Yeah.
I assume it does this in the PlayStation version as well, because
yeah, I would assume.
there's a lot of things that, from my understanding of the PSP version, that seems more almost SNES inspired with how it handles a lot of this stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it finally takes off. It bombs a bunch of towns and destroys them. It gives them a real Damsian kind of treatment from FF4.
Damn it.
So we head back into the sewers after watching the Dreadnought take off, and that our mission essentially failed.
Damn, this is
then
FF4
we can try
vibes. You
and
just keep
use-
failing shit.
We can try and use teleport with whoever we equip that spell to, and we can get a message that says an energy field prevents you from warping out.
No warps.
No warps.
No
from,
wrong warps
from the sewers.
That's right. But there is a door nearby, the one that Borgen came out of earlier, and in
There's
it
a
is
room.
kind of like just a back room with like various little.
Oh my god, we're trapped in the back rooms now.
It's got like various little decorations and whatnot. But there's also a chest with the pass in it, the Dreadnought pass.
Well, that would have been handy.
So now when we actually go up to the Dreadnought next time and they try to stop us because we're clearly like the rebels and they know our faces, we'll flash that pass and they'll be like, well,
our hands
can't
are
kick
tied.
them
Nothing
off.
we can do.
The hands are tied. Gotta let them on. That's just the way it goes.
It's just the way it works.
2 hours into the flight, we will be having a onboard lunch. So if you would like a small bag of pretzels or a little salad,
Perhaps
we
a
can make
Sprite.
that for you. A Sprite. That's right.
Maybe a fresco with only ice.
That's right. That's right.
There is also a warp pad, which is nice.
Yeah, and a warp head.
I like that you have to interact with it. You don't just stand on it.
Yeah.
I like how I tried to select it from the NES version, and it just says nothing there. But yeah, when we go back into Bafsk, we can talk to some people, and they'll, the first thing that someone says is "We're doomed," which sounds bad.
Yeah, no, not good, not good.
They finish the dreadnought. We're doomed. You must tell Princess Hilda about the dreadnought. So that kind of is our next hint at what we need to do.
We have to keep going back to report back.
Mm-hmm,
yeah. Well, I mean, actually, I kind of don't mind the structure of this part of the game, because it actually makes, for me, Altair feel like a base.
Yeah,
like that we are operating out of. Like that's our hub.
Yeah, it's really good how they did that. And again, like, unless you went around exploring, trying to, like, assuming that this game wasn't, kind of pointing you in the right direction or missing some of the cues, you took the ship here, you take the ship back. It's not hard to get back to Altair. Like, you go back to like Pafft or wherever, and then you just have to hop into a river or like a lake where you can use the canoe and not get into any encounters. So
yeah, and I think that like having us go back and forth between 3 or 4 towns over and over and over and over, it kind of has made me like those towns and like the people living in the towns. Yeah. I'm like, oh, those are my home. I'm gonna go back to Pafft. Gotta talk to the bar full of people who say that something terrible is being built in Bafsk. Love those guys. And now we've just gotten a scene where all of these towns have been absolutely obliterated by the dreadnought. So like all of a sudden I am invested in like how well they're doing, and I'm like, oh my god, no, those are my homies who I've spent the entire game hanging out with thus far. So I actually think it's like, I don't know how, like, I assume that's intentional, but I don't want to assume too much.
I would assume so.
I think it's good.
I know that they were very focused on the story, and this is as good a way as any to do that on an NES game. It's
funny that in Bafsk, some people say go back to Altair to talk to the princess to ask about the dreadnought, but some people will say imply that you should go to Pafft instead, because like, oh, the dreadnought was headed towards Pafft, and then someone's like, ask Sid what the dreadnought's weakness is.
Yes, because that actually is a thing that you have to do.
Yeah, that is one of the flags that I missed, because I only did it halfway.
Yep. So if you go to Sid, you can ask him, or he'll talk about airships, right? And
notably in that bar, everyone who we were talking to last week, they're all gone.
They're all gone.
Except for Sid and his
Sid and his assistant, which interestingly, I think they changed the gender of, because his assistant in NES appears to be like a female sprite, and I think in the Pixel remaster, if I'm remembering correctly, it's like a male sprite. I might be wrong about that.
I didn't even notice. I forgot to say that the fellow rebel or traitor or whatever who is in Bafsk, when they let us into the sewer, they also just get magically Thanos snapped away. They just disappear. Yeah. Love that about this game. So a bar full of people who are disappeared. Oh my gosh, they got Dr. Manhattan exploded. They're gone.
They knew something was coming, so they probably just left.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Maybe
they all knew about the dreadnought.
Yeah, they heard it coming and they were like, oh god.
If you ask him about the dreadnought and the airship, though, he'll tell you that airships are powered by sunfire, like a mystical element, I guess. That exists in the world of Final Fantasy. So
I love the phrasing in the Pixel remaster. Is like, what you want to do is blow up that thing's engine. Do that, and you can bring down the whole overgrown tub.
Yeah. So he says in the NES version, he basically says that like controlling sunfire is very difficult, and that's like, I guess, why airships are so hard to build. So he's like, if you let its temperature get too high, then shit will just start to fucking blow up. Like it'll destroy whatever it's powering. So we're like
a balloon, and too much air gets put in it.
yeah. Actually, yeah.
Didn't this come up? Maybe it wasn't called Sunfire, but something in FF4 that was also very like just a super version of fire.
Probably. I mean, FF4, after having played that first and going back to this one, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the blueprint that they then used for FF4. Like, the revolving door of party members. How you're always one step behind the adversaries, and entire cities are getting leveled because of it. And I think there's also some in one of the caves in this episode. Some of the music almost sounds a little bit like the Red Wings theme.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
4
yeah.
is very much like FF2 again.
FF2
like it's like
2.
yeah. FF2 is FF1 2, and then 4 is FF2. Well, FF1 2 2. There you go.
Explain it in
You'll
Mario Worlds now.
Whereas FF7 is FF6 64. There you go, and that's my theory of Final Fantasy.
I also want to point out that if you talk to one of the survivors in Bafsk, because like if you're playing on a newer version of the game, you'll see like the sprites have changed and like things are like leveled and look bad. It looks mainly the same on the NES, but you can talk to the NPC that's right there, and she says the Dreadnought opened fire and killed everyone. So like these places have been like there's a lot of casualties that happen.
When we get back to Altair, there is no one outside, even on the NES version. And like somebody inside the hideout says that the Dreadnought attacked everyone who was outside was killed.
Yeah.
So like only people who were inside the headquarters survived. So like there are many fewer NPCs in all of these towns.
Yeah, the one dude with the sick drip, like the cool like Puss in Boots hat, will say like the townspeople here in Altair have taken refuge here in the hideout, and someone else says like, oh yeah, like the Dreadnought attacked Altair. Fortunately, the hideout is unscathed. That's convenient.
Yeah. But if we go talk to Hilda, she tells us that many people were hurt in the attack, and that her father's condition is worsening. So as we learned before, Hilda's now in charge of the rebels because the king is injured, and it seems like he is getting worse. So she requests that Minwu stay, like to leave our party and to tend to the king because he's a white mage, like a healer, right?
Yeah, the king was like, it's almost as if I heard 1,000 voices screaming out, and then we're suddenly silenced. I do like the fucking piece of shit wizard that's in here who just fucking obviously hates us, and he said, I called it. Obviously the task was more than you could handle. It's like, geez, dude, it's not my fucking fault.
What are you doing here then? Get up
Yeah.
there.
Hey, thanks for all your help.
Fucking do it.
Yeah, man, like we got to stop this infighting. We have an empire to take down.
Damn. Too real.
But yeah, Minmu says, I shall remain here and devote myself to the care of the wounded. I take my leave of you. The fate of the world rests on you, Furia, and waste no time destroying the Dreadnought.
Yeah, and also says that it's his duty to ease the pain of the wounded. So he's going to stay back, tend to everyone who's injured, as well as try and help the king, who is in even worse shape than the last time we saw him.
Right. So
one thing I noticed with because I was following a walkthrough that kind of helped me steer me in the right direction is that I think this is probably I don't know if either you can confirm this, but in the Famicom version, anything that you have equipped to Minwu is basically just lost when he leaves the party.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Which for me was nothing because I knew it was coming up.
I lost
in the
it
Pixel
all.
Remaster, I think he automatically unequips anything.
Correct. Yeah. It's a nice quality of life.
I had to get that conch shell. Conch shell? Conch?
Sure.
Conch?
I think it's conch. Yeah.
Is it conch?
I think I only know that because of SpongeBob.
Oh, okay. Well, I had to get that conch set.
It's funny, we're getting different information here. If we talk to Hilda, she says, my father's condition is improving thanks to Minwu. And then if we talk to Minwu...
Yeah, afterwards, after Minwu stays or whatever, she's like, oh, actually, he's getting better. I'm like,
he's getting better.
Well, I guess Minwu is a miracle worker. What a dude.
Or Minwu is just lying to help preserve her feelings, because when you talk to Minwu, he says, the king's illness is severe. There is little I can do. But hey, listen. Grief affects us all differently. There's many stages to it. I think Hilda might just be in the denial phase. Minwu's like, there's nothing I can do. And she's like, oh, nice. He's there's nothing more I can do. Oh, perfect. So he's going to have full recovery.
He's blue. We lost him. What was the freaking Arrested Development?
The doctor in Arrested Development.
I'm sorry, he's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, you checked out this morning.
No, he recovered and checked out this morning.
So the next thing we need to do is talk to the king, and we can ask him about the Dreadnought. We can ask him about airships. We can ask him about the Sunfire. And he tells us again.
I think I asked Hilda first, and then she told me to go ask her dad about
That's
it
true.
Because about the what did you say? Sunfire is the crest of the kingdom of Kushan. The flame, it still burns on the ground floor of Kushan Keep.
Which
Scott
great.
Gordon told many stories concerning the flame. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great because we know somebody who's from Kashan. We know Scott's
Yeah,
brother,
exactly.
Gordon. Where the fuck is Gordon? And so, like,
I think I was searching all over for Gordon and going to many different cities because, like, I was reading into it too much. I was like, I have the plan. I know we need Sunfire. I know where the Sunfire is. I know that we need something to contain the Sunfire, and the only person who can tell me is Gordon. And I think after, like, hours of wandering around and, like, finding the Colosseum and finding a chocobo forest and stuff, yeah, like, I went all over the place. And then I was finally like, where the fuck is Gordon? And it was like, go talk to Hilda and she'll tell you about the goddess bell, and then you can go here. And I was just like, this fucking game.
Well, hold on now before you go crazy in the game, because if you talk to everybody in the hideout,
I agree.
I was gonna say, there are people in the hideout who are like, where the fuck is Gordon? He is no longer here. No one knows where he is.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I should ask Hilda where Gordon is. And Hilda's like, oh, fuck that. You don't need that. What you need to do is go talk to Joseph. Because she says, like, yeah, we don't know where it is. If Gordon was here, he could tell us. But Joseph's the next best thing. He'll know something about where to find things Gordon wants. Exactly. So, like, it's there. But I was like, oh, where the fuck's Gordon? And then when the game had an NPC say, where's Gordon? I was like, oh, the game respects me.
Listen,
very good.
I'm relatively sure I have undiagnosed ADHD. And anytime I'm having a conversation with anyone, there's a solid chance where I will only absorb about 50% of it.
Yeah, and when Carl and I have a conversation off of the podcast, he often forgets to hit the learn button and then select the topic that I was talking about and then ask it back to me. So it doesn't progress. So,
listen,
so I just end up saying,
I'm a do your own research type of guy, okay? I'm not going to listen to what the princess is trying to tell me, all right? I'm gonna go talk to Borgin. He seems like he knows what's up.
I try to talk to Carl about like Pokemon ROM hacks or something, and then he just says airship, and I go, talk to Alex. His condition is worsening day by day. yeah, just question mark.
Curtis just says, Bafsk, the city in the east. They're building something terrible there.
He just shows me a ring.
No, so I think when I asked Sunfire, and again, my memory of all of the reason why I got so lost is hazy, but I think I did the same thing on this playthrough where if you talk to Hilda and you learn about the Sunfire after talking to the king, who will talk about Sunfire, she will say, aha, then you must depart for Kashan Keep at once. Sid's airship can take you there. And I'm like, got it. Plan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she says that, yeah. Because it's like, oh, we can probably use the Sunfire to destroy the Dreadnought.
Oh,
but she does follow it up with, but what can you use to bring the Sunfire back? And that's kind of like yeah.
If you ask the king about Sunfire, he will tell you about the fact that you cannot get into Kashan Keep without the goddess Bell. Right?
Listen, that dude's close to death. I want to bother him as little as I possibly can.
But if you ask Hilda about the goddess Bell, she'll say, I've heard Scott and Gordon mention the bell. The gates of Kashan Keep open only to the voice of a Kashan or the sound of that bell. The bell rests deep within a cavern on the snow plains. Mm-hmm. Do you plan on going there? If only Gordon were here, there would be no need for you to risk such danger. But Joseph knows the snow plains like the back of his hand. Seek his counsel.
Yes.
And so so it's funny that she gives you two instructions. She's like, go to Kashan Keep, and then if you ask her about Goddess Bell, she's like, don't go to Kashan Keep. That's crazy. It won't open for you. Go talk to Joseph.
She's like, attack while the tail's up. It'll counterattack with its laser.
Well, look, she's new at this, right? She's only been
true. She's going through some shit, dude. You know, like
she's going through some shit.
Her father's very, very ill. She
or
doesn't
not,
want to accept
possibly.
it.
We don't know.
But yeah, so we got to head on back to Salamand, where we freshly liberated that town of the Mithril mine.
Can you take Sid's airship now?
Yes.
Okay, I was curious if he's still flying that thing around with the dreadnought in the skies and all.
Yeah, seriously. Hey, man, he's a grinder. He'll
I guess if there's only 2 airships in the entire world, I guess there's really no reason to put like air-to-air cannons on the dreadnought.
Yeah,
not like you're gonna be like facing a lot of competition.
I think in the dialogue where they say they open fire, I think it's kind of implied that they do in fact have cannons.
Well, it's air to ground. It's different.
That's a good point. I'm not a fucking airship scientist, so that's,
yeah. I did get my degree in airship science from Johns Hopkins. So
I minored, but I was when the professor was telling me about air to ground versus air to air, I was drawing an eye in my notebook, so I didn't think I really.
You were drawing a cool S.
Yeah, but
just imagine like a giant, like imagining like going to school for architecture and having like one of those large like the actual blueprints with the chalk on it, and you've just drawn a giant cool S, and you're like, I really think that this is going to revolutionize the game.
That's how you know fucking billionaires are fucking stupid in this day and age, because none of them are using their ill-gotten wealth to build a giant skyscraper in the size in the shape of a cool S to make the Philadelphia skyline even that much cooler. Instead, those fucking assholes at Comcast made a giant vape pen building.
All these fucking tech bros, all they want to do is just try to make fucking Ready Player One real by making like the metaverse or whatever. That shit's lame. Build a giant cool S.
They're just trying to explain why having a blue check mark on Twitter is actually cool and based, when in fact it is cringe and dumb.
Yeah, blue check mark, get it out of here. Cool S, give me one.
Much more engagement.
But yeah, we can go back to Paft and take the airship, or just walk to Salamand, and we can talk to Joseph to see what's up and use these freshly learned words to get all the information that we need.
That's right. And Joseph is he kind of like apologizes a little bit. He's like, "Hey, I'm sorry I didn't believe you before about you being here to help and making you go rescue everybody, and I didn't even come help you. So this time I'm going to help you out. You're going to need the snowcraft to be able to get to the snow cave where the goddess bell is. So I'll come with you. We can go to Simmet Falls where I've stashed it, and we'll get it from there. It's near a blue rock."
Yeah, exactly.
Blue rock doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. I'm mad about it.
It does not do anything. And I remember kind of giving you a hard time when you brought that up, which I assume made it into the podcast. But
Alex just shrugged.
It's the kind of thing where I didn't test it this time because I forgot, but I'm assuming that, or maybe I did, but you can't do anything by the blue rock. You can't get the snowmobile early. You have to, you actually have to have Joseph in your party, and it says like Joseph like reached in and turned a rock. Like he's the only one who is able to open this secret passageway.
But you don't do it on the blue rock.
Yeah, you don't touch the rock. He just put the rock there.
That's what was crazy to me.
That's the X that marks the spot.
Yeah, that's what was crazy to me. Is like the first time I played this game, I was like, well, I know where the blue rock is. And I kept trying to interact with the blue rock and use items on it or whatever. And I was like, what the fuck? He literally told me to go to the blue rock. Here I am. And it's just in the top right of the room that the blue rock is in.
Here
if you
I
interact with the blank ass wall.
At least in the Pixel remaster, he does say look behind the stone and to the right. The secret room is there. Yeah. A little more clear.
There you go.
Oh, no, so if Curtis is playing notably, Curtis
Carl's
did
getting ready
send
to hand
me
me my ass.
Listen, you've been doing it constantly to me. He says you'll need my snowcraft, whatever. Look for a blue stone on the first floor and head right to the secret room.
Well,
so
I'll just go fuck myself then.
Yeah, I mean it's still pretty clunky. There's a lot of things in this game that could have been expedited as like the rebel forces, as like let's all put our heads together and come up with this. Okay, Sid's an airship master. Joseph seems to know some shit about this. Let's all meet at the rebel base because we're all in this together, and let's all have a conversation. And then it's okay, well, when you put it that way, instead it's fucking whisper down the lane, and we got fucking Guy who can barely talk being like, having
the snowcraft is behind the blue rock, purple monkey dishwasher.
It does feel like everyone is just like mad at each other and like, Furion, can you go tell Borgin that? Like, just over using us as
Borgin, tell your mother I just want to have a nice glass of maple syrup like I do every morning.
Looks like it's back to Winnipeg.
Every time we have to go back to Poft, it's back to Winnipeg.
In Salamand, we can buy a life tome, which is
Ooh,
1,500 gil, which I was like, I got plenty of gil. I got nothing to worry about. And it's like, you cannot afford this. And I was like, what the fuck? And I looked and I had 1,487 gil. And I was like,
oh, so close.
goddamn. But luckily, a mechanic that I don't think we really talked about too much is selling. We have limited inventory space, which kind of fills up pretty quick. If you're doing a lot of battles, you get a lot of potions, you get a lot of antidotes and stuff. So I just sold a bunch of like potions. I was like, I got cure. I mean, I might need these later, but like I'll keep a couple. But the way that the in-battle system works as well, I'm like, I don't feel like dealing with all of that. Like I don't want to equip items. So I was like, I'm going to sell these. So I was able to buy a life tome.
Now I will say, for the area coming up that we're getting ready to go to, the snow caves, it can be useful. Actually, I forget where it was. It may have been in the sewers. It may have been in Simmet Falls. But at one point in the game thus far, we have gotten access to a fire tome that we found in a cave somewhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can't remember where. But it's not a bad idea to, in the items, give that fire tome to Joseph. In his items, like not have him learn fire, but give it to him as a usable item for something coming up that we'll get to. So, but yes, we now have Joseph on the team. So
he's a good puncher, I guess. Well, maybe that's just because I forgot to give him anything.
No, so if you actually look at his stats, you will see that he has like a little bit of proficiency in hand combat. So he's kind of like the monk class or the whatever. I mean,
he's bald. It's the dead giveaway.
Yeah, exactly. So he's really skilled in unarmed combat. So
yeah.
Cool. His profile is he just looks like a strange little white man, bald, just like Italian looking.
He looks great. I like how in like the portrait of him, he looks like full bald, like full team bald. But when you're in a battle, he's got a little like what's it called?
Yang ponytail.
Kirk Van Houten vibe going, where he's got a little bit of male-pattern baldness.
I see.
If I look in Pixel Remaster, it looks more like kind of a Bobby Hill thing. It's like just buzzed cut.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now I have to look at a picture of him.
Yeah, no, in the NES one, just with the limited color palette and stuff, he's got like blue hair. He's just Kirk Van Houten.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're right. Wow.
He does have a mechanic where you can borrow items, but it only works on feelings.
Dignity, Furion.
You're quite right.
I'm very glad that Curtis didn't hear that joke, I assume.
I'm sorry.
In like a month when he's listening back to this, he's going to be like, Carl, I heard that joke and I laughed really hard.
I was like
5
very
weeks
like
from now when we're late game, he'll be like, fuck, I never learned that joke that Carl said. So now I can't make progress and I have to go all the way back to fucking Poft.
I was enamored by Joseph's incredible pixels, and I was just like,
they're
looking
really
at them.
good.
I was like,
they're
wow.
really good.
He does look like Kirk Van Houten.
Fuck, I feel like I need to draw Kirk Van Houten as Joseph now.
That guy sleeps in a race car.
I sleep in a snowcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also like that the snowcraft is just in a treasure box, which makes me wonder about the size of the snowcraft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the Capsule Corp.
It's just an inflatable boat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which it kind of is. It's just like a funky little.
It's like a sailboat.
It does remind me of those 8 ice. I think this exists, and I'm trying to remember what they actually are called, which is more or less a boat on 3 wheels.
Yeah, like the little. I was thinking it's kind of more like a. Well, I guess a Cessna is the boat on 3 wheels, right? What's the one that can also like land in the water?
I guess
plane that can land on water.
I'm looking at a land sailing Wikipedia page.
A seaplane.
Little history. Some sort of seaplane.
Yeah, it looks. I don't know why I'm thinking Cessnas and seaplanes because it's surely not a plane. It is a sailboat. It's like a sailboat that can sail on the water, except it sails on snow.
What if there was hard water?
Maybe those are actually sidecars.
So I am looking also at the Wikipedia page for land sailing, And
Hell yeah.
there, the very, very first line is land sailing, also known as, and all three also known ases are way cooler than land sailing. There's sand yachting, land yachting, or my favorite, dirt boating.
Dirt boating is the working class version of that. The others are fucking talking about yachts and shit. Come on. In this economy?
I like the shitty concepts of from Venus. It looks like it's a fucking meme because it's like a bunch of clip art and looks like the landing pod just has like a cowboy hat on it for some reason.
The very first
what the fuck is that?
The very first picture on the Wikipedia is of a device called a sail wagon, which I enjoy very much.
Ooh.
From Brooklyn. Yeah, it looks like they just made it out of 2x4s and a bunch of bike wheels. Cool.
So I'm going to assume that Joseph's snowcraft is a land wagon or a sail wagon.
Do you think we actually had to use this, or is like he just really wants to show off his like project that he's been working on?
Yeah, we don't actually
It's
need
like,
it.
oh yeah, we gotta use this. We have to.
When I was wandering all around to try and learn Sunfire or Goddess Bell or whatever, I did try going to this area because I was like, okay, well, it's clearly in an area that I haven't been in yet because I've been everywhere and I refuse to talk to royalty because I'm working class. But I tried going into like the snow area and realized that I couldn't. And I was like, oh, okay. Like you just hit a wall. It's like if you were walking up to yeah, it's like
I thought it would have been like a windy type of thing, like bluster, like oh, it's too stormy or whatever.
No, it's literally just like if you walked up to the ocean, you can't do anything, which I think is really cool. I think that
that's how I feel like in real life when you go to the ocean, you just can't do anything.
I didn't realize how like instrumental this sort of mechanic was to Final Fantasy games when I first started playing them, because I started with Final Fantasy VIII and there's a little bit of that in it but not too much, and then I went back and played Final Fantasy VII and there's a lot of that in a more modern type of way, with like the tiny Bronco and stuff effectively just being like a sailboat. I guess that's why I was conflating the two as well. Anytime there's a fucking boat in this game, I just think it's like a plane. But yeah, I really love this, that it's like this whole big wide world, and the way that they section it off is by like how you can traverse it. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like in one of the Pokemon games you couldn't get through the desert because it was too windy and you needed to get goggles or some shit?
Probably.
Sand goggles or something. It's what it reminded me of.
Basically, in order to get through the snow area, we do need HM01, which is cut, which we can get from beating Lieutenant Surge.
Yeah, no game has done it better than.
Wait. We get it from the captain of the SSN, but we can't use it as an HM until we beat Lieutenant Surge.
Right, exactly. Well, no, don't you need to use cut to get to Lieutenant Surge?
Oh, you're right. You can't use it until you beat Misty?
Yeah, something like that. You have to talk to Misty and learn the word Goddess Bell before you can
That's right.
Go on to the SSN.
Exactly.
Goddess smell.
Goddess Bell Sprout. Yeah. Yeah, that is like 5.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Good.
It's got my seal of approval.
Well, we got the snowcraft.
The
ASX snowmobile.
It is notable in that it doesn't work like the canoe, where we get no encounters. We get encounters in the snowfields.
Yeah, we do. Although these encounters, I mean, I could be wrong. I feel like this is the first place that the encounters can live more than like one hit. Yeah. So you can start getting stats on them. I feel like where I wasn't necessarily getting stats off of all of the other enemies because they just weren't lasting long enough.
Yeah.
So like I was like, ooh, some stat ups, very nice.
Yeah.
But that's as far as I played. I stopped at the entrance and I said, F that. Speaking of which, two things I want to point out. I meant to bring this up on the second episode, and maybe I did. I don't know. It's possible I brought it up, but I think I forgot. You can just save anywhere outside, even on the NES game.
Yeah.
What? That's incredible. That's amazing.
If you try saving inside a town or inside a dungeon on the NES version, or I think also in the Pixel Remaster, it says like you can only save on the world map.
Right. But the idea that you can save anywhere on the world map is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And I did not know that was possible on an NES game, so bravo. Really
Well
cool.
done. Yeah, is this the
Second
first
thing
Final
is-
Fantasy that does that? Because that becomes pretty common. Like, they do that in Final Fantasy VII as well.
Yeah,
I feel like that becomes kind of, it could be them setting the standard. I forget how it did it in one.
One, you had to do it at an inn.
Right.
The other thing was, since you're also playing the NES version, and the thing is, I don't think this would be I don't think this would be caused by the translation patch, but I need to I actually have the cartridge for 2, so I think I need to plug it in and play it a little bit. Have you noticed on the world map, after you get out of a battle, you're always facing right?
I have not been facing right, but I have noticed that when I get in a dungeon and I finish a battle, I'm always facing down, which is a problem because my brain sucks and I'm bad at directions, as everyone who has listened to this
That's the reason I noticed on the world map,
because
I'm like,
which way was I going?
Yeah,
I need to think about it in 1987 or whenever the fuck this game came out mode, and have a pen and paper next to me and be like, when I entered this battle, I was going west.
Yeah,
and then I will start
a
going
thought
east
to
and
myself.
be like, I wrote down west here. Why isn't this working? I'm like, oh right, because I fucking mixed up east and west because I'm an idiot.
West. You went west.
I can't find north. I'm not gonna look at Cocoon. This map is the problem, not me.
And then the Wii version, East and West are swapped because Link is left-handed.
It's funny that you mentioned being left-handed because we haven't seen it yet, I don't think, but there is a mechanic of the favored hand versus the non-favored hand.
There is, yeah.
Interesting.
Comes into play later with the best NPC, or I guess not an NPC, with the best playable character.
Yeah, so different characters have different favored hands, like they're right-handed or left-handed and do more damage. And
yeah, so you can one hand in your left hand for more damage, etc.
Which it does explicitly say in the Pixel remasters. I can't remember if it actually explicitly says so in the Famicom version.
I haven't noticed it yet in the Famicom version, but I would assume maybe if it does, it would be in the stats screen. Let me
The only left-handed person in FF4 is Kane.
Yeah, that explains a lot. That is needless shade thrown at our left-handed brethren because...
If you are left-handed, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and tell us about being left-handed in the review.
I'm not seeing... Oh, you know what? No, it says it literally right here on the stat page. One of the first things at the top. Joseph is right-handed.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
Nice. So...
Well, this is where I ended. I did not go any further.
Yeah, well, we make our way across this snowfield, and we found the cave, and we're gonna go deep into this cave next week.
Oh, we're gonna go so deep.
Yeah, get your fire tomes ready, y'all.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm ready. I'm packing. I'm literally packing heat.
I got this.
That's good. That was good.
Yeah, it's hitting all the notes for me this time. Yeah. So you guys got anything else to talk about for this section? I guess I would just say shout out to sabay-web.com for having a really
I'm always
cool,
saying that.
Whomst amongst us isn't always saying that. For having just really cool walkthrough guides for a lot of RPGs. I'm using that for the NES one because the Pixel Remaster has me spoiled with just having a map readily available at all times. The world map in the NES version is cool, but not very functional by today's standards. Yeah. You can have it rotate, but since it's 1 pixel at a time, it doesn't really look. It's hard to really look at. So
it rotates in real time.
It's faster just to fucking walk there.
Yeah. So I've been looking for walkthroughs and things like that to just pull up maps, and this one looks like the best one that I've seen so far. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Nice.
On this website, we provide tips and walkthroughs for many games. We'd be grateful if we could help you to beat the games. We never cheat in games. Have fun. Actually, using a guide is cheating as far as this gamer is concerned.
Well, you got anything else, Alex?
Nope.
In that case, would you like to join us in breaking the world dirt boating speed record?
Would you like to reach into the wall and turn a small rock once?
Yeah, sure. Thank you all for listening. Thank you to Night of the Round for the theme music and ending music. Thank you to Nobuo Uematsu for the game music. Thank you to the Gooch for the game.
The Gooch.
Be sure to leave us a review, rate, or subscribe anywhere you're listening to us. You can find us at every FNFF on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and hop on our Discord and reach out to us at 530 Materia. And nobody wants to podcast under General Borga.
All right, see you next week.
See ya.